a web designer and content strategist at MMG Design, technically I'm a one-person shop, but to be honest with you, it just doesn't feel that way because I use AI at so many touch points that's helped me level up my agency from zero to where it's at now, currently serving over 15 clients in the Columbus region and growing our revenue every single month. From the first touch point to literal final delivery, AI is like a digital teammate for me, and it has helped me in so many areas of my process that I'm excited to lay out for you all today. AI helps me work faster, communicate more clearly, and honestly just deliver higher ROI for my clients in the end. So in this video, I'm going to be breaking down every single software I use and more importantly, the touch points at which I use them out throughout our design and content strategy process for clients. It's crazy to think that just 2 or 3 years ago when I founded this company, I was barely using AI at all. And now it's so entrenched in our workflows, but it's a good thing because it allows us to deliver so much more value. And it's honestly just fun to play around with. And some of my favorite things about diving into these tools is that you find these unique use cases. And I guarantee you there's a few that you haven't heard of today that I'm going to share with you. These softwares include TLDV for meeting transcriptions, dialogue, creating personas for each of our clients, being brand voices, Moxie Project Assistant, which allows me to use these transcripts to generate project briefs, tasks, and deliverables and attach those to timelines. ChatGPT Projects, which acts as a one-and-all hub and is our probably deepest used tool, allows us to create personas really dial in our clients' brand voices and is great for copywriting. NotebookLM as a research and study assistant, allowing me to passively intake ideas about new industries and become better versed for my clients to be able to represent them on their behalf through their content and design. Relume, which is more on the design side for wireframes, ideation, copy, sections, design, and everything in between. I've made several videos about Relume in the past, so we'll link some of those up in the card as well. And also just regular ChatGPT for ideation. So from the moment you start working with clients, you're going to learn that you're going to want to start to record and have access to every single conversation and touch point that you have with them. Now, just a few years ago, we were doing everything over the phone. And to be honest with you, some of our clients still are on that relationship level. And if you do use iPhone, a little hack for you guys right off the bat is that iPhone now lets you record phone calls and it will save a transcript of them to your Notes app. A super helpful feature. So if you guys are ever on a phone or using Zoom, that integrates super well if you don't have access to a software like this. At MMG, we use a meeting transcription tool called TLDV, which, in case you don't know, is called Too Long Didn't View, which is just a great name. But in this software, we use it to record all of our meetings. And to be honest with you guys, it's gotten to the point where unless this thing is hooked up onto all of our calls, we don't even move forward. So I am very big on having just some kind of resource that we can use to be able to access these calls. And it's really going to serve as the foundation of everything and all of our efforts moving forwards when it comes to creating a brand voice for our clients and being able to better represent them through the website copy and getting in touch with their taste. And a little hack for you guys is it will remember every single detail. And one of the biggest value adds of having something like this is that you don't have to be simultaneously taking notes at the same time as you're on these meetings. You can really focus on being present, going in with notes ahead of time and not having to be distracted as you context switch between your notebook and, writing things down and asking questions. So it's a big lift on my end. Now, there's a ton of different softwares and tools that do something like this, but the biggest thing that you want to make sure you get is some type of transcript. The reason we use TLDV is because it has an inbuilt ChatGPT AI integration for each meeting. So I'll show you a little bit about what that looks like. This is just a meeting I had with Elizabeth last week talking podcast strategy. Shout out Elizabeth. But basically, you can just ask it questions and you can load in default templates for each meeting where it'll automatically generate some of the core value adds that you're trying to get from every single meeting. If you have like a repeating set of tasks that you want to generate, like a task list, action items, or small details that you want to make sure you remember. But it has it all built into here, which was really helpful. But to be honest with you guys, the thing that I really like the most is the transcript feature. And it's an instant copy paste button, right? And that's just so helpful. I also like that it records video. Not every software does that. So there are a lot of other ones. There's Fireflies, there's Read.ai, but I would really encourage you guys, and there's also Google Gemini, which we'll talk about a little bit later, which if you use Google Meet integrates very well and I'll send you a follow-up afterwards. The only issue with Google Gemini as a meeting transcriber, in my opinion, is that when it records the video, it doesn't store it in the cloud. So you end up with a multi-gigabyte file that you then have to store on a hard drive unless you have a Google Drive that it can integrate to as well. So that I found to be a little bit less convenient, but again, less important as a software. But at MMG, we use TV, and it allows us to have access to an inbuilt ChatGPT like this. So we say, give me a list of action items, spell correctly. It can give you that sort of right away. And also after each meeting, it'll redirect you straight to this hub, which is really nice. So if you have something that's top of mind, you can ask it right away. And boom, you have all of these things with the time codes from that meeting, which is really helpful. We also use this a lot for the podcast as well. So super helpful software, TLDV, and that's the first place we use AI in our process at MMG. And it's going to compound, all of these efforts are going to compound on one another. So stay tuned for the next one. Okay, so after we have been sure to transcribe our meeting and all of our calls and we have transcripts generated, quick tip, you want to make sure you use a TXT file for these. It's the most efficient method for ChatGPT. But then, as I just alluded to, we move into ChatGPT. And for each of our clients at MMG Design and any agency, any sort of client-facing business, I would super recommend that each of you guys utilize this feature called ChatGPT Projects. Basically, you make one of these for each of their clients and you can load a more dense variety of information into each single project that it can recall and provide context for future conversations. So if you want to create some kind of a brand voice for each of your clients based on writing styles and past data, it can ask you, you can start to create a more tailored version that's based off of more relevant past data and it has a much larger storage size than just if you were to create new chats every time you want to repeatedly engage with the same client. So basically what it does, it creates context awareness and the ability to remember past chats and inform future dialogues and answers. So I'll create an example. Say you just want to have a new client, create project, and then this is what we always start with. You can add custom instructions, which is a big one too. So, and this is where I would add dialogue on your client's industry, what your goals are, everything that you can take away from the first call. If you have that TXT file transcript, reference it, ask it. The prompt I would give to extract that I normally give to extract from that transcript to give the custom instructions would be asking it who our target audience is, what is our mission, describe a brand voice based on this conversation, and also generate a prompt for describing that brand voice. I have a prompt that I use for every single one of these that I am going to share with you. This is called the personalization prompt. So personalization prompt for content is extracting basically the founder's voice or the client's voice from that call and being able to use it to inform the copy for our website, the copy for our social posts, informing and injecting that language and different feedback. So another tip for you guys is if you're struggling to create prompts like this one is a very good one, which I will link to in the episode description. But basically, you say you're a marketing consultant who works with founders to refine their brand voice, create differentiated content that aligns with their business goals. I just had an onboarding call with a founder where we discussed their brand vision, tone, industry expertise, and unique positioning. I need to extract key elements from this transcript to create an LLM prompt that allows me to generate content in their voice. So you're going to ask it for its brand voice characteristics, key industry expertise and thought leadership, brand messaging and content goals, and you're going to give it instructions. And this should all be under 6,000 characters, which will then fit nicely into this right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take away this right here, copy and paste right into there. We'll save that into there. And if we have that TXT file from the meeting, we will drop that in right here. And the file submission portal on GPT Projects is huge because it has basically an unlimited file storage limit that you can go in and start to create dense information that it can reference given those contexts that you just provided it for in the custom instructions. So this is something that is like the stock market for us. It really starts to double down when we have our weekly meetings with clients. They really start to become more and more effective because you're adding more context to the project afterwards. If you're diligent with uploading the transcripts, that can start to really inform better copy. And a smart little tip for you too, a little bit of insider baseball. If you want to generate something that will just wow them and say, what's a good prompt that I've asked a ChatGPT project before is saying, what is one small detail from this call that the founder or the stakeholder would be impressed that I would remember? So like a birthday or a pet's name or something like that. It can give you a pretty good job of generating that as well if you really want to blow your clients away. So this is phase 2 in our process of using AI, and we are very diligent about this, and we'll reference ChatGPT in a little bit later. But on to step 3, which is going to be moving over to Moxie for creating project management using AI. Okay, so next step where we utilize AI very strongly is in project management. And we're also jumping over to another tool for this. I want to sort of encompass our whole philosophy. We have ChatGPT, which we're going to reference a lot with their projects. That's going to be picture as the main hub. I know I kind of referenced this already briefly in the beginning, but the client persona hub is where we're going to be referencing everything, and we can also use it to generate transcripts for which we can create a project based on the dialogue of the conversation. So what I might do here is now we're going to use Moxie's project assistant feature. If you guys have never heard of Moxie, it is our freelance project management system that we use to handle invoicing, accounting, finances, project management, basically everything. And they've recently started to roll out some unique AI features that really ease the friction of getting into project creation and making everything repeatable, and also easing the friction, like I said, of creating the tasks that go into every project based on these conversations that we have with clients. So I'm going to give you guys a brief example of how we use it to set up a project that we can then use to assign tasks, whether they're to freelancers, attach deadlines to each of those tasks. And it really does it in a nice chat box format where you don't have to go in and create a bunch of new and unique tasks and attach each of those to dates and deliverables and stakeholders. So I'll give you guys a little bit of a persona on that right now. So I'll give a example client, say the AMA, project name, sample project for projects video. It's going to be a default project. We're making a marketing project. And you can also create templates, which is what we've done for some of our past clients. We have repeat services. So we do a lot of branding, design, social media, websites, marketing. So we have a different project set up for each of those. But we're going to click this button that says Project Assistant right here. We're going to hit boom. And basically, we're going to upload either a prompt that we asked ChatGPT for. So what I could say in ChatGPT Projects is say, generate a sample prompt this meeting that outlines project deliverables, timelines, stakeholders, and budget. Make this a sample project for now. Boom. So obviously keep in mind that this is going to be an example. We're going to be referencing a transcript when we do this IRL, but say that we wanted to create an example company, Clean Plate Club, what the deliverables are, the timeline, everything like that. It's going to give you everything that we need. And I'm going to ask to reformat this in just text so that I can copy paste it in. Reformat this to be boom. Okay, so now we have a basic format that I would recommend putting this into. Basically just bullet points with a couple of headlines. And then we can put this into Moxie Project Assistant, and it's going to start to generate tables that will attach to each of these fields as identified. So how this is going to work, we're going to go back over to Moxie, paste this in, hit send, and it's actually going to ask us questions that it needs for clarification. And as you can say, it'll say the client name, the project, deliverables, visual assets, integrations, and it's going to create tasks and subtasks from everything in that meeting that we asked for. So it's telling you everything inside of there, all of the stakeholders, the fee structures, budget breakdown, boom. And what you can do is review this. You can also ask it to ask you more questions to clarify some of the details, but you're really going to want to make sure that you look at this and make sure all the details are correct before it goes in and creates the project. So it's even going to handle everything like the deliverables to the fees and time structure, budget, and when the dates of these projects, or when the dates of each of these deliverables are going to be due, which is super important, as you guys will see. So I think that looks okay, especially for an example. And I'll keep in mind, we're going to be referencing an actual example later. But for that, our purpose looks good. We're going to go ahead and hit create. And this is the cool part. It is going to create our sample project based just on that. Like, we didn't have to do any typing. This was one of our biggest time sucks when we were doing this before, is creating briefs and proposals and everything like that that goes into this. So now that we have all the tasks attached, what we're going to do is we're going to name the project. Again, it's already named it. Choose the start date, and that way it can reference all of the dates automatically in reference to the start date before when the deliverables are due. We can have an aspirational project due date, so say a couple months down the line. And the project owner is myself. You can also integrate freelancers and tag them in as team members for each specific project. And then you can also attach it to a client portal. This is more down the weeds. But then you hit save, just like that. And now is if we go into our project overview, we can see we have everything attached in terms of all of our tasks, their due dates. We can go in and add subtasks to them as they go. And when we go to our own personal calendar, we're going to see these dates attached to each of them. We have all the details on them and when the specific deadlines for invoices and deliverables are due. It'll start to automatically create those invoices that we just have to sign off on and create the details for right away. So this has helped a big part in project management and making sure that projects get off on the right foot for us, and it's done wonders. So if you haven't checked out Moxie or Moxie Project Assistant, highly recommend. And that is another phase in which we are using AI in our process at MMG Design. Okay, so moving right along, the next area in which we reference AI throughout our process at MMG Design is a tool called NotebookLM. And this is going to be for research, strategy, and really getting to know our clients' industries is what it's best for us. So I have a couple examples pulled up. I'm probably going to blur these out for the sake of the video. But say, let's go into this project right here. Basically, what NotebookLM allows you to do is it allows you to add a bunch of different sources and create a context library where you can go in and ask questions. And it's really great for being used as a study tool. So, for example, if we're taking on a client that's in a tech industry that we don't know a lot about. So, for example, Yearling Solutions is a fractional CISO and CIO. So we didn't know, personally, I didn't know a ton about the nuances of that industry, what the exact target audiences were, the language that they wanted to hear. So what you can do is add a lot of different sources. So like for this one, and you can add a ton of them. You can add 300 different sources, which is just incredibly a lot. And what you can do is you can upload PDFs, audio files, Markdown, TXT files, anything from Google Docs and Drive, links. You can upload entire websites, entire YouTube videos, or you can paste text from the client's website. Basically anything you want. And you can start to learn based on a much wider context base of information and really tailor that towards what you need to know. So for example, I almost use it as a coach. And the really cool part about this is that it allows you to generate podcasts, which can be a great form of more passive learning. So if I'm preparing for a client meeting in one of these industries that maybe I was previously unfamiliar in, what I would just say is, okay, I'm getting ready to propose X and Y and Z deliverables. I also upload the transcript from our call into NotebookLM as well. I'll basically say, these are the services that I want to be offering. This is the context of this meeting. Generate a meeting that gets me prepared to meet this client and then makes them impressed with my industry knowledge and expertise, and positions my services well to add the most value to them. Something along those lines. And it'll generate a nice little preparatory doc. You can also generate study guides based on the things that you want to learn. So my advice for using NotebookLM as a study tool is be very direct in terms of what you want to learn and very much hone in on that and use it as a tool to prepare for client meetings and knowing more about their industry. Okay, so moving right along here, now we're moving into the design and concepting side. Now that we have everything client facing pretty much finished, we have a proposal sent, approved, we have the project manager set up. We know everything about their business and industry. We know the deliverables and scope of the project. Now, if this an example for this case would be a website, we use Relume. So now we're going to really start to see the compounding benefits of how all these tools play into one another and how they apply to the more nuanced versions of design. Basically, I've talked about Relume a ton on this channel before. Like I said, we'll reference those in the card. But this is a sitemap generator, which this sitemap right here was generated from our NotebookLM, or sorry, our ChatGPT project hub, which I said, remember earlier was going to start as our project hub. We asked ChatGPT to generate a brief for generating a sitemap, and we can be very specific in terms of what the deliverables for each page are, what we want to cover on each page, the copy, the brand voice, and everything like that that goes into each section of the website. And then once we have the wireframe laid out, all of the pages that we need and the exact topics that we want to cover on each page and how those sections are from a design standpoint, we then can transmit that into a wireframe, which can start to pull from their component library. So we're basically taking the goals from the prompt in the sitemap that is generated and then moving that over to a wireframe format based on the context of all these existing calls, right? And a little bit of super inside baseball here is now that we have a visual layout like this, we can start to utilize screenshots, okay? So if we just paste this to our clipboard and say capture, we can then use ChatGPT to go in and reference that project and say, give me copy, 5 variations of copy for this section with different intensities of language. Make sure they align to our brand voice and represent our client well. So it's going to be able to visually see like, okay, you have one image, a headline, a call to action, 3 calls to action, a button, and a subheadline. So it's going to give us different sort of approaches that we could use to target this section with the exact copy. And you can even see it starts to format it correctly. So it has the headline, boom, right there. It has the subheadline, boom, right there at about the same length. And then it has the 3 call outs right there. And this is all idea generation. So you want to be the final filter in terms of how all these look. But this is very helpful to just get more ideas going and be the filter for, okay, is this in alignment with what our goals are and what we're trying to portray with this section? Because I am the expert in terms of what goes on the site. I just want more idea generation and how it's going to apply to that visual layout, because that's kind of the messy middle in terms of how that works. And then additionally, after we have that wireframe created, we go into the style guide. This is something that we started implementing in a couple different projects. So what we can do from the style guide feature after we've generated the wireframe, so kind of step 2, is we go into each of these sections and we really dial in the copy, making sure almost all the words is perfect. And I've kind of varied in terms of how detailed I get on the copy in the wireframe stage. Now I try and make it as spot on as I possibly can because it saves a lot of time in the end. But with this new style guide feature, we can start to generate different colors and styles based on our brand and the different colors that we want to apply it to. Different styles. We can play around with different fonts based on what we think we want the design direction to go, and then we can start to present different concepts to our clients as well. So if you want to go to pitch concepts, say you generated a few different variations of all of these different elements in the style guide, we can start to present these and attach images to them. Say we use different fonts, we shuffled around the colors a little bit, and we can really start to play with different concepts. And this is still in beta, so not a lot of them look great, but you can use different hues of different colors. You can also put in our logo there as well. I really just like the idea or the concept of just being able to apply different fonts and stuff like that, and also different button styles at the click of a button. It's really good for getting through new concepts fast and being able to see like, okay, this is kind of in alignment with the direction that we want to go. You can mess around with the card and image styling as well. But yeah, this is kind of geez, that one's atrocious, but so you can really start to ideate and get new ideas using AI that'll help you start to just get the ball rolling and really apply all of our dense information from these meetings and these concepts. And you can see how the process is going more to the visual format as we go. One more bonus little Easter egg I wanted to show you guys that we're using AI for in our creative aspect of our agency. We don't use this a ton, but I want to throw it in there for some additional reference for the creative side, is Adobe Firefly. So we have a subscription to this that allows us to generate more branded images. We really don't use this as much for final deliverables on websites, mostly for the idea generation, mood boarding, and concepting phase. Like we just showed you the Relume sitemaps and wireframes and the concepts there. We might start to tie in some of these when we head over to Figma and create design styles. But this is a better way to create sort of stock assets that are on brand. But when we do publish the live site, when we do make original assets for content for LinkedIn or for social media, we will generate all of these posts and assets using things like Figma and also Adobe Photoshop to make better branded content, because it's really hard to create better infographics and things that are truly on brand if they are generated by AI. But this is very good for concepting and creating something that's a little bit closer, because it allows you to upload reference color styles and different image elements that it can start to create from. But it's always just a little bit off, and you never want to risk someone coming to your website with a AI generated image that is obviously not real. So that's what we're trying to dodge. But this is great if you're just showing them to clients. So say for an example, insurance stock image, man on computer, photo, realistic, 16 by 9 aspect ratio. Boom. And here we can start to dial in the aspect ratio. We can change it to photorealist, and we can start to generate something a bit more along the lines of what we're going for. Things like these, the best I've seen it for is to reference stock images. So what we can do here is, if we have a good image, say on our desktop, that we can reference or not. But anyway, it's going to be really good for referencing other stock images and creating other variations that are very close. Really good stock imagery libraries are just Adobe stock and things where even if you have to pay $8 to $10 a photo for, it really helps to deliver better assets in the end to clients. And that's the main goal of what we're trying to do. But the cool thing with these is that you can start to generate unique variations of each of them, and you can use it as a style reference. You can use it as a composition reference. So now you can plug it into here and then regenerate. And now it's going to generate 4 more in that ratio that looked almost exactly like this one. See, it's going to pull out some of those same elements. And if you're reusing different concepts across sections, odds are one of these are going to be good enough to show your clients for a wireframe. And for reference, these are what some of our wireframes look like for clients that we're doing right now. So this is Travis's project right here. Now, given that we have all of his assets already, we didn't have to generate AI images. So we had all of his photos previously loaded in this project to work with. But say if we didn't have all the assets that Travis had, we would start to populate some of these placeholders with AI images. And usually they're good enough to get the job done, at least from an approval standpoint, and getting to the next step of the client project. So that's about all I wanted to show you in terms of the design front. We use Adobe Firefly for mostly for more placeholder content, and it allows us to also upscale the images if we find one that we like, and then download it afterwards. And it's a pretty lightweight file size as well. Okay, one more bonus one that I forgot. I feel like there's a lot more that will come up even after I record this video in terms of where we use AI in our process. But this one has been one of my favorites lately, and it references Moxie that we talked about in the beginning, and it is their form builder. So if any of you guys create questionnaires for your clients, or you need like a branding questionnaire, onboarding, references about their industry, asking them questions about their experience that you didn't gather from a first call, this is a really good template for that. So basically with our form builder assistant, again, referencing our ChatGPT project, give me 10 questions for the founder about the website project that were not included in the transcript that I can use to populate a questionnaire. So it's going to give us 10 questions, again, referencing that same transcript. So now that it already knows the project, it knows what we need to ask. It also knows what we didn't ask. So we can get a better sense of the things that we need given what the project is. So for example, if it's a website, we're going to need to know what their main call to action is, small details, whether or not they had a domain, if they've had existing marketing, what their existing website platform is, if they've ever done paid ads, all the small nuances and details of the project that you're going to want to ask them just to set a cadence and improve communication. So now that we have an example, again, this is very high level overview just for sake of demonstration. I would get a lot more dialed on this, but we hit just copy these questions and bring them into the form assistant and Moxie, and then we hit send. It's going to ask us what these questions are. It's also going to format them correctly based on what the question is, which is wild. So if you do a questionnaire, you can do different formats like multi-select, long text, short text, and you can see like what kind of questions and question inputs it's offering you. So like for brand clarity and positioning, it's asking all these questions and the reasons why it's asking them. And then boom, I'm just going to hit create just like that. And then it's going to create a fairly branded questionnaire with all of the text inputs that I can attach to a link and send to the client pretty much right after a call. So this one's pretty wild. Again, I'm going to wait for this to load so I can show you the output of it. And boom. Okay, so this is something that we can send our clients afterwards where they can answer. We can also style it pretty well. And this is right off the bat. I haven't made any changes to this like that. Right off the bat, what I would usually add is some kind of like a header image and start to brand it a little bit. So we could upload like our company logo to the top here. I don't have my SSD connected here. You can also paginate these. You can use conditional logic. So you can add different questions based on responses to past questions if you're doing like multi-choice and things like that. So it's super good if you missed asking something in the first meeting, you can then follow up on afterwards. You can just generate a form to send to them, and it's going to be branded. It's going to be attached to a link. It's going to look super professional right off the bat. I'll send you, I'll look at, here's one of my past forms that I have made. So here's a brand development form that I've made in the past. So asking them their target audience, demographics, emotions, everything like that. And they're going to think, wow, like they really want to know my exact client. You can also generate sample text for the inputs as well. So these things are just very small ways you can use AI to also level up your process and yeah, just make you look as good as possible when you're talking to clients. Okay, so that's pretty much going to do it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is how we use AI in our business at MMG Design to create killer websites and content strategy for our B2B clients. If you guys have any questions or on how we use any of these tools at specific phases in the process, I know I bounced around a little bit, and to be honest with you guys, there's a lot of things that I couldn't show in this just for being client facing and also just because there's so many areas that we use it in. So if you guys found something that you didn't know, be sure to drop a comment and subscribe to the channel. We're uploading every single week. It would be very much appreciated as a lot goes into these videos. start a conversation with me below. Connect with me over on LinkedIn if you have not already. That'll be the first link in the description. And thank you guys again for watching, and we'll see you next time.